does $150 get you today in the world of photography? For many people, they want to get into photography. They think it's too expensive. Everything they see, cameras going for like $500, $600 and more. And to them, that's overwhelming. So today I have with me here the Nikon D200. I purchased this camera right here for $140. It included this battery grip. I bought it secondhand, used off eBay. Today I'm just going to go over some of the pros and cons to choosing this camera body over some of the other options that are out there. Namely the Nikon D3300, D3400, very common camera for beginner photographers. This right here is the camera itself, body only, the way you normally see it. The one I found included the battery grip. What this does is it allows you to have 2 batteries on the camera at all times. That way you have twice the battery life. As well as that, it allows you to take pictures in portrait while holding it sideways. It's got the shutter release button up top. For this battery grip itself, you just have the 2 batteries right there. Charge them, put them in. On the grip, you have the rotary dials front and back. That way you can change the shutter speed, aperture as you go. The test shots that I'm going to be showing you today were all taken with the Nikon Nikkor 35mm f1.8. This camera is APS-C, so it's got the smaller sensor size. Back when this camera came out in 2005, Nikon didn't have any full frame cameras in their range. It was still new technologies. When this came out, the only better camera you could buy from the Nikon lineup was the Nikon D2. So this is almost a professional camera body. Up to today's standards, I wouldn't necessarily call it a professional camera body, but you can still get great results and you have a lot more control over what you're doing than if you were using this camera, the D3300. These are typically around $500 to $600. They normally come with a kit lens. It's the most common option I've seen. A lot of my friends have it. They get great results. You can get great results with this camera as well for $150. So on here, just to go over the camera itself, as opposed to these cameras, all your information is displayed up here on this nice screen. If it's dark out, you can light it up. You're probably not going to be able to see because it's bright in here. But you have your f-stop, your shutter speed, basically everything you need to know. So all you have to do is look down to double check what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture right now just to show an example. When you take pictures, you do have a small screen on the back to review it. The screen itself is okay, not great. If you want to review your focus and check your focus, you can only zoom in times that one time, where with some of the other camera bodies you can zoom in even more and really get a better understanding of how the picture that you took came out before you end up going home and finding out it's junk. For me, I've used this camera a little bit. I understand what's right and what's wrong reviewing on the back screen. I haven't had any issues with that, although it is one of the things that might be a little more challenging for somebody that's new. Understanding if your exposure is right while looking at a screen like this. That definitely is a benefit to the newer models of the Nikon cameras. Some of the features that this camera has that you won't find on one of these, as well as one of the key things that I like about this camera is if you want to change something like ISO, you just hold it down and you rotate here on the back, and it makes it very quick and easy to do. Or if you had one of these cameras, you'd have to flip through the menus and it'd take forever. And say you're out there shooting portraits of somebody, you can't be sitting there just like flipping through your camera. Hold on, let me get ready for this one shot. Take the shot. Okay, let me get ready for this next shot. With this camera, you can just seamlessly change all your options as you go. Not all beginners are going to be using that. What I do recommend is shooting in shutter speed priority, aperture priority, or manual mode. Typically I like to stick to aperture priority because I'm really looking out for figuring out my depth of field and taking shots accordingly. Which brings me to another pro of this camera, is the shutter speed goes up to 1/8,000th of a second, where on this camera it only goes up to 1/4,000th of a second. What that means is if you're out shooting portraits in broad daylight, This camera, you can't get the shutter speed fast enough to capture the right contrast and lighting and coloring, where this camera won't let you down as far as that goes. Let's see, some of the other pros and cons to this camera. This camera has the appearance of a professional camera body. If you go out and take pictures of people with this camera, they're going to take you serious. And I'm not just saying that. I went out to Fire Island just the other day and I got stopped by a bunch of people asking me if I'm a full-time professional photographer. All different comments along the lines of that. Whereas walking around with this, I've never been stopped with by anybody. So whether you want that attention or don't, this camera will definitely get it, especially having the battery grip on the bottom. Carrying around a big camera has the appearance of a professional photographer, even if it really isn't the case. I mean, I have mirrorless professional cameras that draw no attention, nobody thinks twice about it, but yet that's a professional camera and this one isn't. So that's definitely something to think about when considering it. Another thing is this camera does weigh a bit more than the other cameras, so if you're looking around all day, you might not want a camera like this, or the two batteries in the bottom at least. But that is optional. As I was showing you, you can take it out and then just put in one battery, put the cover on there. I like to shoot with prime lenses to get the most out of my cameras. This camera, I have taken quite a few pictures with this 35mm, and they're pin sharp. If I wanted to print them out 20x30, that would probably be the max. It would be cutting it a little close at that. 11x16, as long as you compose the photo right, using the right shutter speed and everything, then you could get 11x16s very easily. The pictures on this camera come out really good. I was shocked when I got it. I expected something worse than this, and it turns out it's actually a very good camera, and I do carry it around a lot with me. Kind of use this one for fun. I have a few small mirrorless cameras for traveling that I like using. Cons to this camera. So as I was mentioning, the resolution's very good and above, I would say, average for, like, say you're comparing it to just a point and shoot camera. It's definitely above any point and shoot camera. It is 10 megapixels, which today I believe Canon's in the range of, for their entry-level cameras, they're around 18 megapixels. Nikon's around 24 on a camera such as this. Doesn't mean that your pictures are going to suck because you have less megapixels. What I've seen mostly is that you can't crop as much. When I take a picture with this camera, I essentially have to nail the shot as far as the framework when I take the picture, because if I was going to go in and crop the image, it normally starts getting blurry once you start cropping it a little bit. So you do want to pay attention to what you're shooting and what you want in the frame and really master that when you're taking pictures. One of the things that's interesting about this camera is this being an earlier Nikon body from 2005. It doesn't have the live view on the screen, whereas with this camera, if I was taking the D3300, if I was taking a picture and I wanted to get one really down low, I can turn on live view right here, and then I can view the picture that I'm going to be taking. So with this camera, I could go down low and check my image and then take it. Or if I want to go up high, same thing goes. The screen doesn't pop out, so it does make taking pictures up high still a challenge. But with this camera, you can only view images on the screen after they've been taken. So if you want to go down low, you have to go down low yourself and look through the viewfinder the whole time you're doing that. Going up high, you're just blind shooting. It's just the process of taking the picture, seeing if it's good, and then possibly taking it again and again until you get it just right. One of the other things that I haven't touched upon is that it has this little dial down here. If you can see it, the S, CL, CH, timer, and then M up. I love having the feature of M up because one of the issues with taking long exposures with a DSLR is the mirror flops up and down every time you take a picture. So when you put it up in M up mode, what you do is you click the shutter once, that pops the mirror down. Then when you click it again, that actually goes to take the image, and that way you don't have that shake and vibration. That's something you can't do in the D3300, which is a feature I've definitely used a lot and I really like because it eliminates a lot of the shake that you get with these DSLRs. Besides that, the memory card type is one of the things that you could see as a little complicated when it comes to this camera. What you have is you have a compact flash card. So what this in turn means is the memory cards cost a little bit more when you go to buy them. And then besides that, most I haven't seen any computers that have adapters for these, so you'll have to get an external adapter. I happen to actually have one, so it worked out fine. Whereas if you were to have a camera like the D3300, you just have the regular SD cards. A lot of cameras, laptops have inputs for this, so it makes things a lot simpler. One less thing to carry around. Besides that, I'll go into some of the images that I took with the camera, testing them out, and you'll be able to see for yourself the results that I got. Now on to the final part of the video, just reviewing some of the images that were captured using it. One of the things I forgot to mention when I was going over the camera itself is that it has this feature where it tells you when you overexpose portions of the picture. For example, when I originally shot this picture, the sky up here was overexposed. So what the camera did was, when reviewing the pictures, it blinked in black, just letting me know that I probably overexposed that. And then I was able to change it and fix it and take a good image. This is another image I took. This one was a 30-second exposure of a train coming at me. I had the camera on the tripod and then I just walked away. Put a couple second timer delay on it, that way it wouldn't get any shake from when I press the shutter button. Another image that I feel came out really good, and I'm glad I had this camera to be able to capture it. Train going by and then just the cars going over the railroad crossing. This was the first test shot I took when I got the camera. What I did was I just put on the timer on it so that it would give me 10 seconds. I put the camera on the ground and then just ran out into the frame. This one I did miss the focus a little because I was focused on here, and as you can see that's a little sharper than I am. Moving on to this one, just for example, if I was to crop into this image to just like right about here and make that the image itself, it really doesn't have the resolution to do such a thing. So that is one of the downsides. But displaying it as the full image itself, nobody would ever be able to tell that there's any problems with it because it is sharp enough for an image of this size. Here's one of the ones from Fire Island. Again, using that exposure setting where it lets me double check that I have the proper exposure for the shot. And then Fire Island again. Some test shots. Everything's pretty sharp all around, edge to edge. A lot of that can be thanks to the lens. And then the final shot, just wanted to use a low f-stop. That way I can get just the plants in the front in focus and then blow out the background a little bit in the back. Make it nice and dramatic. I feel like the image came out pretty good and that the camera is very good. And I do recommend it to anybody that's getting into photography. Definitely is a great tool.